Good afternoon, sir.
Let the other people have to be joined, then we will start the class.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. So how are you? सब लोग ठीक है ना? घर से बाहर कोई निकलता नहीं ना है?
No, sir.
सुरक्षित रखना बहुत जरूरी है। ये वेव कोविड का बहुत खतरनाक है। पर डे हम कुछ ना कुछ गलत न्यूज़ सुन रहे हैं अपने रिलेटिव्स के, अपने फ्रेंड के बारे में। सो आप लोग बिल्कुल घर के अंदर रहें, ठीक है ना?
Yes, sir.
सो क्लास शुरू करते हैं। सो लास्ट क्लास में वी हैव स्टडीड द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ मोल्ड, getting different gating system, different terminology used in the gate casting, and we are in the point where what types of a machine which are used to ram the sand or casting. So that machines are jolting machine, squeezing machines, and some sand cylinder is there. So we will see once of the view of the this three types of machine. So molding machines इसको बोलते हैं। पहला मशीन है आपका, the first one is called the jolting machine, फिर squeezing machine. My pen is not working. Jolting machine, squeezing machine, and sand slinging machine. So basically the purpose of these three machines are to ram the sand. Ram the sand करने का मतलब होता है जब सैंड को ड्रैग में डाल देते हैं तो सैंड को टाइट करने के लिए, ताकि इंटरमॉलिक्यूलर डिस्टेंस बिटवीन द
कॉम्पैक्ट करना सर,
व्हाट
कॉम्पैक्ट करने के लिए सर उसका पार्टिकल को एक साथ
करने के लिए, इंटरमॉलिक्यूलर डिस्टेंस को कम करने के लिए, कॉम्पैक्ट करके उसको धीरे धीरे से धीरे धीरे उसको हाथ से रैमिंग करते हैं, लकड़ी के गुटके से करते हैं, ठोकते हैं उसको. So if we have in the small number of casting in laboratories or some low production will be required, then the manual ramming will be done. But when the mass production will be required in industries, then these machines will be used so that the mass production will occurred. So jolting machines generally होता क्या है कि this one is the drag, ये ड्रैग पार्ट है, कोप एंड ड्रैग पार्ट होता है, जिसमें ड्रैग पार्ट डाउन लोअर मोल्डिंग फ्लास्क है, जिसमें हम क्या करते हैं, मेरा पैटर्न यहाँ पे पैटर्न रखा जाता है, दिस वन इज द पैटर्न, and the sand, or we can say that the mold is filled, the sand will filled here. So हम जब सैंड को यहाँ फिल कर देते हैं, देन दिस ड्रैग बॉक्स को हम इस मशीन पे यहाँ रख देते हैं, दिस वन इज द ड्रैग बॉक्स, and this one is the plunger, this is called the plunger, which will be vibrate by the internal, by the external, giving the external compressed air. So this plunger will be the this one is the table and this one is the plunger, will be move up and down. So when it move up and down, vibrate, the sand will be rammed over all over the flask uniformly. So due to avoiding the soft load, there is a spring will be provided to connected to the base of the machine due to avoid the soft loading. So this is called the jolting machine to for the purpose to ram the sand mold in the drag box. Similarly, the another machine is called squeezing machine, which is also used in the industries for the purpose of the mass scale ramming process. So in this process, there is a table, there is a straight column, and this is the base, and here the box is there, where the here the box is, one box is there, sometime a vacuum pressure and one ramming tool, exactly the same size of the internal diameter or the internal size of the internal diameter, or we can say internal shape of the drag box, उससे सेम साइज का एक रैमिंग टूल होता है, जो लकड़ी का एक चरखना ऐसा कर बना हुआ, दिस यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड लाइक दैट, इसको हैंडल पकड़ने वाला होता है ऐसे, it is a rectangular shape and it is the size is the same as the drag box internal diameter. That's if it is a drag box, it is a drag box, then the shape and size will be the exactly matched here. Suppose that this one is a drag box, so we can use it, and the internal, sometime internal vacuum pressure will be applied, and this plunger, or we can say this machine tool will be act over the sand and compress it, so that the sand particle will be uniformly distributed over the all along the pattern, or the all over the along the drag box. Similarly, a sand slinging machine is also used to for ramming of the sandbox. This tool is generally a fan. There, if there is a drag box, this is a drag box. Sometimes a blade, a fan blade is machine is totally fitted over the drag box, and the sand is poured into the over the fan. The fan is rotated, and the centrifugal force, the sand is distributed over the, this one is the pattern, if we fill the pattern over the drag box, and it will be filled uniformly. And if we want to displace the sand slinging machine, or if the sand slinging machine is basically a fan type over which the sand is poured, and the fan will be distributed or distributed the sand particle, silica particle all over the drag box. Sometimes we will displace the sand slinging machine or the fan blades according to your the choice. If the sand slinging, if the sand particle will not be distributed overly, we will displace, and we will work according to the desired the sand ramming. So this one, these three types of machine is used in mass scale production in the machining, in the metal casting in the industries. So next topic is today we will cover the composition, what types of sand will be used for the casting mold casting, and what is the composition. So mainly it is the literature part. We will see the one by one. The sand mold, sand mold is basically the silica. 96%, mainly the main ingredient of the mold flask is the silica. Clay is the binder material. Water and some additives will be used to made them. So the first sand will be the silica sand. The silica sand is 96% casting. We will use the silica sand. The main ingredient of the silica sand is the silica grain, SiO2, silica, alumina, Al2O3, then sodium N2O, sodium oxide. Some oxides will be always be there, which will be the in form of impurities. We can not be remove all the impurities in the mold. Only 2% impurities can be we will be removed. The main source of the silica is the river water. The main source of silica we will find the river water. The fusion temperature is very much important for all the molding sand, because for the casting we have already a molten metal above 1000 degree centigrade. Most of the metals will be fused or melt. So the melting point of molding materials is also very much important parameter. So silica sand fusing temperature will be 1450 degree to 1550. So it will be, you have to remember it. Now, the other sand will be the zirconium sand. Zircon sand इसको बोलते हैं. Actually, the base of the zirconium sand is zircon sand is zirconium, and the main composition is zircon oxide, silicon oxide, मतलब silica, alumina, it is Al2O3, and ferrous oxide. So 66% zirconium is there, zirconium oxide in zircon sand, and SiO2, silica is 30%, then alumina and ferrous oxide is there. Actually, this sand is very much expensive, and it is found very less places in the India. So sometimes it is found in Ceylon beach in Kerala. The fusing temperature is very good. It is the high fusing temperature, so it is better. But it is a very costly. So it is also a good thermal expansion. Less matlab it will have the less number of coefficient of the thermal expansion, because if the materials or the sand will be expand, if the temperature will be given, then it will be affect the mold cavity. So it is have the low coefficient of thermal expansion and high thermal conductivity. High thermal conductivity means the thermal जो हीट को एब्जॉर्ब करके बाहर निकालने का जो कैपेसिटी होता है वो बेटर है. Do not write that on the screen. So it the next sand will be the chromite sand. So these all the sands are used to make the mold. So the composition of the this sand will be asked sometimes in your competitive examination or in the university examination. Write the what types of sand for making the mold and what the composition is there. So you have to write or remember the types of sand which will be used to make the mold, and what the composition. So chromite sand is generally made of the extract from the chromium. Composition is chromite oxide, ferrous oxide, silica is also a major part, but it is will less quantity in the chromite sand, and calcium oxide is also. Magnesium, alumina, and magnesium oxide is there. Fusion temperature is also 1800 degrees centigrade for chromite sand. It required a, so every sand will require a binder materials. Binder materials or binding agent is nothing but the clay we will use. Clay with the some additives will be poured on the clay, and we will make to make the weighted to the sand mold. So if we use this chromite sand, the less number of binding materials will be required. So better it is used for manufacturing for heavy steel casting. It will be also sometimes asked. So you have to remember. And base surface finishing chromite sand will be used. So olive sand, it is also very rarely used, but we will know the term olive vinine sand contains the Fostanite, magnesium, and phthalate, Fe2 or CiO2. The silica is always the common component in for all the sand, all the molding sand. Next things is the clay. The clay is this type, four types of sand we have studied. Then some other types of sand is also there. There's a parting sand, facing sand is there. So we will study. But the clay is a binder material, or we can say binding agent. क्ले जनरली क्या होता है ना, जिसको हम लोग चीनी मिट्टी बोलते हैं, अगर बालू के साथ उसको, बालू के साथ वाटर के साथ उसको अगर मिला देते हैं, दैट विल बी कॉल्ड द गुड बाइंडिंग कैपेसिटी बिटवीन द सैंड मॉलिक्यूल्स. सो वी विल यूज द क्ले. क्ले आर यूज्ड एज अ बाइंडिंग एजेंट which is mixed to the mold sand to provide the strength. बिना क्ले मिलाए हुए उसमें स्ट्रेंथ नहीं आएगा. So the clay is an important things for making the mold. So popular clay is a kaolinite, or we can say the fire clay. The composition is alumina, silicon, and water. So the kaolinite is used, is a type of clay. Then the bentonite is very frequently used, and the bentonite का main जो पर्पस है उसका ये है कि इसमें वाटर मॉलिक्यूल्स ज़्यादा होता है. सो बेंटोनाइट हैज़ द मेल्टिंग पॉइंट, इसका बेंटोनाइट का मेल्टिंग पॉइंट एंड काओलिनाइट का मेल्टिंग पॉइंट इज गिवन हियर. So bentonite absorb more water because the n number of water molecules we will see in its composition. So bentonite is also the two types, the sodium type bentonite and the calcium type bentonite. So the binding agent clay is the two types. Two generally we will use the kaolinite and the bentonite. So you have to remember it. Now some other sand we have also used. That one is called the facing sand, baking sand, and parting sand. So facing sand, बेकिंग सैंड एंड पार्टिंग सैंड का क्या यूज है और किस पर्पस यूज होता है. सो इसको जानना भी जरूरी है, क्योंकि दिस द कॉमन टर्म विल बी यूज इन द कास्टिंग इन इंडस्ट्रीज. सो फेसिंग सैंड इट इज यूज टू ऑब्टेन द क्लीनर, जैसे फेसिंग बोलना ही जाता है, स्मूथर कास्टिंग सरफेस के लिए यूज किया जाता है. जैसे क्या होता है, जैसे ही हम पैटर्न को रखते हैं इन द ड्रैग बॉक्स, when we put the pattern on the drag box, some coal dust, you have seen that coal dust will be sprayed on the pattern, so that a layer will be stick to the pattern. Then the molding sand will be poured on the drag box. So the purpose of this coal dust, we can say the coal dust is a facing sand. And facing sand means the face of the casting will be cleaner and will be the smoother. But even though we can't get the smoother surface as we will required, so the machining is be required after the casting. So the machining allowance and silicon will be given, but the facing sand will be rather the better surface we will obtain. So the basing sand is generally the sea coal, or we can say the sea dust, or we can say the coal dust we will be used. Finally, the bituminous coal, 2 to 8% carbon. So the baking sand हमेशा पहले भी बता चुका हूं कि बेकिंग सैंड विल बी, बेकिंग सैंड वो सैंड होता है जिससे हम पहले मोल्ड को बना चुके हैं किसी कास्टिंग में, उसका स्ट्रेंथ ड्यू टू रेसिस्ट द रिफ्रैक्टिवनेस ऑफ द मोल्ड, उसका हीट रेसिस्टिव कैपेसिटी थोड़ा बढ़ जाता है, इसीलिए दैट सैंड विल बी मेड अगेन, दैट सैंड विल बी यूज्ड अगेन टू मेक द मोल्ड, so that the so that the solidification or the conductivity of the sand will be increased, and the heat resistance capacity, that is the refractiveness, will be increased, so that we can use the baking sand. Some parting sand, you always hear a term, the parting sand. This parting sand generally used where the two part, when the we have already studied that we have the molding flask, the three parts will be there. There is a lower molding flask, there is a lower molding flask, there is a upper molding flask. Look at the three-dimensional box. There's a cope is the lower drag part. The cope is upper molding flask, and the drag will be the lower molding flask. So look at this is the upper lower molding flask, and this is the upper molding flask. So this one is the cope, and this one is the drag. So we will made, we firstly we have, there is a bottom board, and this bottom board we have the bottom board we have the drag will be kept in the opposite side, and here we will keep the pattern. So after the pattern we will filled, so we have to turn the flask, and we will mate it with the with the cope. Suppose some matching type of casting we have to made, and this types of casting we will use the cope, some pattern, some mold cavity in the pattern, some mold cavity will be in the drag side, and some mold cavity in the cope flask. So in between there is a parting line, and we have to put or we can be put an sprinkled sand on between the partition of the two flasks, and that is called the parting sand. So this is the material which is the sprinkled on the pattern and the parting surface. Parting surface means sometimes we have the multiple type of pattern we will use, where the three molding flaws we will be use, that means with the cheek, hope and drag. They are the two surface of the parting, the two surface of the boundary surface, where we have to match the pattern, where match the pattern mold cavity. So in between this we will sprinkle the parting sand, so that if we remove the pattern and produce the hollow cavity, it will be easier to be separation. So separating के जगह पे हम लोग parting sand का use करते हैं. It helps, so it helps in easy withdrawal of the pattern and easier separation of the cope and drag. Necessarily it is the fresh silica grain will be used, washed fresh silica grain generally we will use in form of parting sand. So these are the sand generally we will use, and these are, we have some, the silica sand, olivine sand, chromite sand, and zircon sand. And all the sand, sometime it will be asked in the numericals, not there is a numericals in the design part, but will be, it is not be used, but it will be asked in many times for if you give an interview in the private manufacturing company. So what the type of hardness of silica sand, what the type of hardness of the chromite sand, so you better you have to remember this data, or rotate हो गया, rotate हो गया, rotate हो गया. So the all the things relevant to the foundry part, all the things relevant to the foundry part means what the work of doing when we make the casting. Before the casting, what are the things we have to do making the mold, and all the things will be covered, and all the sand compositions, different types of the different types of the gating system we have studied. Now the things have to study is the gating system and the gating system design. So gating system generally is the five component which have to decide to make the casting perfect, and these are nothing but the pouring basin, screw, riser, runner, and the gate. So this the whole things is combinedly called the gating system, and gating system is very much important for the molding, for making the better casting. So क्या होता है कि हम मोल्ड कैविटी तो प्रोड्यूस कर लिए ड्रैग एंड पोप में मिलाकर, लेकिन उसमें हम डायरेक्ट भी मोल्टन मेटल डाल सकते थे, लेकिन डायरेक्ट मोल्टन मेटल डालने से वो कास्टिंग बेटर नहीं बन पाएगा. इसलिए नहीं बन पाएगा क्योंकि वेन it will be poured directly to the mold cavity, then the air interruption, the oxygen oxide will be formed, and the proper solidification will not be happen. Some portion will be solidified with lower side, and upper where the heat transfer will be low, it can't be solidified. So the lot of defect will be made. So the casting, for the casting a proper gating system, where we have to the port the molten metal, where how it will be flow and what the time will be taken. So that proper gating system and the design of the gating system, what types of screw we have to made. It is a it is a cylindrical type, decreasing size type. Yeah, it is a parabolic size of the screw we will required. What the time required to port with the port from the pouring basin to the entering to the gate, entering to the mold cavity, what the minimum time should be required, what is the rate of the solidification, how much time it will required to make the solid, to get the solid cast. So for all this purpose, we have to we have a gating system, that is called the pouring basin, screw, riser, gate, runners, all the things. So in the next class we will first introduce why we will give the notes of why the gating system is required, and what is the purpose to design the gating system for making a smooth casting, and then some numericals and the time in terms of times कि the cooling rate क्या है, उसका time to the travel of the molten metal from the pouring basin to the mold cavity. This all things will be required in the design section, and design section will be in your syllabus. So we have studied in the next class, and it will require to 4 to 5 3 to 4 class to all the numericals of the gating system. So today I stopped here. Next class we will see the design part of the casting, then some special castings, casting defects, and some special castings is not in syllabus, but we will study. First the design part is very big. Let them finish, then we will be moved. 4 to 5 class or required है casting में, then it will be over. So I am stopping now. If you have any question, then you may ask. Otherwise, we will continue in next class. Only half an hours will be have finished. So all you have the attempt the quiz question study.
Yes, sir.
Okay, have you got the marks?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So whose are get the maximum?
बहुत जन का आया होगा सर।
Let me see.
बहुत लोग का आ गया होगा।
Hmm. ठीक है. I'm not disclosing your marks in a group. So you individual have check your capacity, and then on Saturday we will again multiple choice question. This multiple choice question is very much important for your competitive point of view, because the casting part, because the whole the production part, there in every competitive exam 30% questions will come through the cast, come through the production. That is, one is the casting, welding, forging, metal cutting, in this the whole things. So every every week one quiz of objectives I will provide to you, so that you may get all the
Yes, sir.
thank you.